Every great success story begins not with luck, talent, or chance, but with attitude. The world doesn't shape your attitude shapes your world. There's a quiet power in a man or woman who carries a winning attitude. You can sense it the moment they walk into a room. Not arrogance, not empty confidence, but a calm assurance born from within. These individuals have learned one of life's greatest secrets, that attitude is everything. It determines how we see the world and, in turn, how the world responds to us. When two people face the same problem, one sees an ending while the other sees a beginning. The circumstances are identical, but the outcomes couldn't be more different. Why? Because attitude shapes perception, and perception determines action. And the person who believes that every setback carries within it the seed of equal or greater benefit will always rise again. A winning attitude doesn't deny difficulty. It acknowledges it, then moves forward anyway. It is not born from ignorance of obstacles, but from the understanding that growth only happens when we face them. It is the voice inside that says, "I will find a way." And it is that voice that has built bridges, launched great ideas, and turned ordinary people into legends. Here's a timeless truth. We become what we think about most of the time. If we think defeat, we attract defeat. If we think growth, we create it. The mind, like soil, returns what we plant, and our attitude is the seed. Plant gratitude, and life gives abundance. Plant fear, and life gives limitation. You and I have the power to choose every morning what kind of harvest we'll reap. Developing a winning attitude begins with small, deliberate choices. Start by controlling your inner dialogue. Instead of saying, "I can't," ask, "How can I?" Replace complaints with gratitude. Each time something goes wrong, stop and ask, "What's the lesson here?" Over time, you'll recondition your mind to focus on solutions rather than problems. Surround yourself with positive influences. Read books that expand your thinking. Listen to voices that uplift rather than discourage. Associate with people who remind you of your potential, not your limits. A winning attitude is contagious, and it spreads quickly among those who are ready for change. Attitude is the foundation upon which all success is built. It is the invisible cornerstone that determines whether we rise or fall, succeed or surrender. Every achievement, every breakthrough, every story of greatness begins with an inward decision. A decision about how one will view the world and respond to it. We often search for secrets and strategies in systems, in shortcuts, yet the true secret lies quietly within shaping the quality of every action and reaction we take. The difference between a person who merely exists and one who truly lives is not found in circumstance, but in attitude. A person with the right attitude can turn the smallest opportunity into gold. They see possibilities where others see dead ends. They rise early not because they have to, but because they are eager to begin. They bring energy into a room, not because life has been kind to them, but because they have chosen to be kind to life. This is the silent strength of attitude. It is the unseen current that propels the mind toward achievement and the heart toward fulfillment. When we look at those who have reached the heights of success, we find one unshakable quality, an attitude of expectancy, an unwavering belief that somehow, someway, things will work out for the best. The foundation of all great work is belief in oneself, in one's purpose, in the value of persistence. And belief is born from attitude. You see, the human mind is like a compass. It always points toward the direction of our dominant thoughts. If we fill it with doubt, it leads us into hesitation. If we fill it with courage and hope, it leads us into action. Attitude determines which direction we travel. It is not what happens to us that shapes our destiny, but how we interpret what happens. Two people may face the same hardship. One is crushed, the other refined. The difference lies not in the event, but in the inner posture with which it is met. A winning attitude doesn't wait for favorable conditions. It creates them. It understands that success is not a matter of chance but a matter of choice. It realizes that complaining changes nothing, while gratitude transforms everything. It carries a quiet assurance that life, in all its complexity, is a partner rather than an enemy. The one who has built their foundation on a positive mental attitude walks steadily even when the ground shakes beneath them, for they know their footing is within, not without. Every morning we have the opportunity to decide how we will live that day. We can choose to be reactive, allowing the outside world to dictate our emotions, or we can be proactive, setting the tone of our own experience. That choice is the essence of attitude. It is the moment when we decide to take command of the only thing we truly control, our own mind. And from that moment on, every action, every word, every result begins to align with that inner decision. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. Your attitude is that adjustment. Life will always bring with it unexpected gusts, sudden storms, and calm waters. We cannot command the tides or still the winds, but we can learn to navigate them. This is the quiet art of living well, understanding that while circumstances may not always be in our power, our response to them always is. The sailor who learns to adjust his sails does not curse the storm, he studies it, learns from it, and uses it to reach his destination faster. So it is with life. Those who master their attitude harness even adversity as a form of propulsion. Every person at one time or another faces conditions they would not have chosen. There are disappointments, delays, and detours along every journey. But attitude determines whether these obstacles become barriers or building blocks. When we meet difficulty with bitterness, we resist life itself. When we meet it with understanding, we begin to cooperate with the flow of events, turning what could have broken us into what strengthens us. The world is not designed to guarantee comfort, it is designed to develop character. The winds of change are constant, and those who adjust endure. Those who do not drift without purpose. Consider how a small change in thought can alter the entire course of a day. When something goes wrong, the person with a negative attitude feels attacked by life. The person with a positive one feels invited to learn. Both experience the same wind, but one sails forward while the other remains anchored in complaint. This subtle shift in thinking, from reaction to adaptation, is the very essence of growth. It is how people of vision turn difficulty into discovery and trouble into triumph. Attitude is the pivot point of every human experience. It decides whether we move ahead or stay behind. When we understand this, we no longer waste energy trying to control what cannot be controlled. Instead, we begin to focus on our own thoughts, our own reactions, and our own inner weather. There is a profound peace in realizing that nothing outside of us can dictate how we feel unless we allow it. The wind may blow as it pleases, but the direction of our life is determined by how we set our sails. A wise person learns to welcome change, to see in every challenge a hidden opportunity. Life, after all, is not a series of random storms. It is a vast sea meant to be explored by those willing to steer through both sunshine and rain. When the winds of adversity rise, they are not signs to retreat, but signals to adjust. In that simple, powerful adjustment lies the difference between drifting aimlessly and arriving purposefully at the harbor of one's dreams. The difference between mediocrity and greatness lies in how one responds to challenges. Life in its wisdom does not hand victory to anyone easily. It tests, it refines, it shapes those who are willing to endure its lessons. Every difficulty, every disappointment, every setback carries within it the raw material from which character is built. The average person recoils at hardship and seeks comfort, while the person destined for greatness steps forward and faces it head-on. It is in those moments of tension, when life presses hardest, that the seed of success begins to sprout. Mediocrity is born in the habit of avoidance. It hides behind excuses, delays decisions, and seeks the path of least resistance. It complains about circumstances instead of commanding them. Greatness, on the other hand, is the offspring of responsibility. It understands that challenge is not punishment but privilege, an invitation to rise above what we once were. Those who achieve lasting success are not the ones spared from trials, but the ones who learn to grow through them. They develop inner muscles that no comfort could ever provide. They know that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. When we respond to challenges with faith rather than fear, the world begins to yield its treasures. The person who sees obstacles as opportunities quickly discovers that life bends in favor of the persistent. Every problem becomes a lesson, every delay a form of preparation. The one who learns to meet adversity with calm resolve begins to see a pattern, that each test brings new strength and each setback a hidden advantage. It is not the storm that defines the sailor, but how he uses it to reach his destination. The same wind that destroys a weak foundation propels a strong one forward. Greatness demands a decision to face life's test with courage instead of complaint. The road to excellence is not paved with ease, it is marked with detours, doubts, and demands for discipline. Yet it is precisely this struggle that makes the reward meaningful. Those who shrink from challenge never discover their true capacity. Those who embrace it uncover a power that even they did not know they possessed. It is this response to life's friction that polishes the human spirit until it shines. We cannot always choose the size of our problems, but we can choose the strength of our response. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is not talent or luck. It is the quiet decision to keep moving forward when others stop. Life favors those who refuse to give in. It opens its doors to the one who, though wary, continues to knock. And in that simple act of persistence, in that refusal to retreat, mediocrity dissolves and greatness is born. A winning attitude sees opportunities where others see obstacles. It looks beyond what is and envisions what could be. While most people stop at the first sign of difficulty, the individual with a winning attitude begins to search for the hidden advantage buried within the problem. Life seldom presents itself in a neatly wrapped package. Its gifts are often disguised in challenges, setbacks, and unexpected turns. Yet to the mind trained in optimism and perseverance, these very difficulties become invitations, openings through which progress and discovery emerge. The person who has cultivated a winning attitude understands that every obstacle carries a lesson, and every disappointment hides a door waiting to be opened. Such an individual refuses to be blinded by appearances. When others see impossibility, they see innovation. When others complain about what is wrong, they look for what can be made right. This quiet strength comes from the knowledge that the mind, not circumstance, defines the limits of possibility. They have learned that life responds not to despair, but to determination. Many people live under the illusion that opportunity comes only to the lucky. But opportunity is never about luck. It is about perception. The same event that discourages one person becomes a turning point for another. History is filled with men and women who faced tremendous obstacles, yet turned them into stepping stones toward greatness. The difference was not found in their resources, but in their response. They did not wait for conditions to improve. They improved themselves, and in doing so, they improved their conditions. A winning attitude is not naive. It doesn't deny the presence of difficulty. It simply refuses to surrender to it. It acknowledges reality without letting it dictate the future. It is that quiet voice within that says, "There must be a way," and then begins the search until the way appears. Such people know that problems are not stop signs, they are guideposts. They signal that growth is needed, that creativity must awaken, that courage must take the lead. Each time we encounter an obstacle, we are presented with a choice: to react with frustration or respond with curiosity. The moment we choose curiosity, the obstacle transforms. It becomes a challenge rather than a burden, a puzzle rather than a punishment. The energy that once went into resistance now fuels resilience. The more often we respond this way, the more natural it becomes, until eventually we begin to see every situation through the lens of possibility. Life seems to reserve its greatest rewards for those who refuse to see barriers. They understand that success is not about avoiding obstacles but mastering them. They know that a closed door is not the end, but a sign to knock again, perhaps harder, perhaps smarter. And through this unwavering focus on opportunity, the winning attitude turns even the harshest trials into triumphs waiting to be revealed. What we think about, we bring about. Our attitude attracts our outcomes. The mind is the most fertile field in existence, and whatever we plant in it, we inevitably harvest. Thoughts are seeds, and our attitude is the climate in which those seeds grow. A person who constantly nourishes thoughts of defeat, fear, and limitation will find those very things appearing in their life, while one who nurtures ideas of success, faith, and purpose begins to draw circumstances that mirror those inner convictions. Life has an extraordinary way of giving us not what we want in words, but what we truly believe in thought. Everything we experience begins first in the quiet workshop of the mind. A winning attitude is simply the consistent habit of directing thought toward growth, gratitude, and possibility. When we hold a steady image of what we desire and back it with conviction, we start to attract the people, opportunities, and events that align with that image. This is not mysticism, but the natural law of cause and effect applied to human consciousness. Just as a magnet attracts metal, our dominant attitude attracts conditions in harmony with it. If we walk through life expecting the worst, the world obliges. We notice every disappointment, every flaw, and every setback, for the mind always finds evidence to support its beliefs. But if we choose to expect the best, we begin to notice beauty where we once saw nothing, cooperation where we once met resistance, and abundance where we once perceived lack. The world itself hasn't changed, only our mental focus has. And through that change, our results begin to transform as well. It is said that two men looked out from prison bars. One saw mud, the other saw stars. Both were in the same place, yet their realities could not have been more different. Our attitude works in precisely that way. It determines what part of reality we pay attention to, and in doing so, it shapes the experience we call life. The person who cultivates positive expectation begins to radiate a quiet confidence that others are drawn to. Doors seem to open more easily. People seem more willing to help. Challenges seem less intimidating. Nothing outside has truly changed. It is the inward transformation that alters the outward response. To bring about better results, we must begin by thinking better thoughts. We must guard the mind as carefully as a gardener tends a field, removing the weeds of doubt and replacing them with seeds of purpose. The law is simple, yet few truly apply it. What we dwell upon expands, what we repeat becomes reality. Every success, every invention, every great advancement began as a thought held long enough and strong enough to take form. The individual who understands this lives no longer as a victim of circumstance, but as a deliberate creator of their own destiny, guiding their life by the quiet, constant power of thought. Gratitude and optimism are not emotions, they are decisions. They are conscious choices of perception, deliberate acts of mind that determine the entire flavor of our experience. Most people wait for life to give them something to be grateful for before they express thanks, yet the wise person knows that gratitude must come first. It is gratitude that opens the door to abundance, not abundance that produces gratitude. The same is true for optimism. It is not born from a perfect set of conditions, but from the decision to look for what is right in spite of what is wrong. Every morning we awaken to a world that reflects the lens through which we choose to view it. One person sees burden, another sees opportunity. One feels cheated by circumstance, another feels blessed to be alive. Both are living in the same world, yet their inner experience is as different as night and day. Gratitude and optimism are the lenses that reveal the best in life. They turn ordinary moments into extraordinary ones and transform challenges into chances for growth. Life responds to these qualities as surely as an echo returns the sound that called it forth. Gratitude is not merely saying, "Thank you." It is the quiet recognition that even in difficulty, there is something to be learned, something to be appreciated. It shifts our attention from what we lack to what we already possess, and in doing so, multiplies our sense of fulfillment. A grateful person can never truly be poor, for they are always aware of the invisible wealth that surrounds them. The sunrise, the laughter of a friend, the opportunity to begin again. Gratitude turns life into a gift rather than a burden, and those who live in that awareness attract more of what they appreciate. Optimism, too, is a matter of discipline. It is not blind denial of reality, but faith in the power of response. It is the understanding that every setback carries within it the seed of equal or greater benefit. The optimist trains the mind to focus on solutions rather than problems, on progress rather than obstacles. This mental posture creates energy, creativity, and resilience, qualities that transform the seemingly impossible into the achievable. While pessimism drains and delays, optimism builds and moves. Together, gratitude and optimism form the twin pillars of a winning attitude. They keep the spirit steady in turbulent times and magnify joy in moments of calm. When we choose them deliberately, life begins to take on a different hue. People are kinder, opportunities appear more frequently, and even difficulties seem to lose their weight. These qualities are choices we renew daily, not fleeting moods that visit us by chance. And each time we choose them, we lift ourselves to a higher level of awareness, where life, regardless of its imperfections, becomes a field rich with meaning, promise, and quiet beauty. Success begins the moment you decide to look for what's right instead of what's wrong. It is a shift so simple in appearance, yet so profound in consequence that it changes the entire course of one's life. The average person spends much of their time noticing flaws, in circumstances, in others, and in themselves. They become collectors of errors, experts in disappointment, masters of discontent. But those who rise above mediocrity have trained their minds to search for the good, the useful, the lesson hidden within each situation. This single decision, to look for what's right, marks the dividing line between frustration and fulfillment. The human mind is a remarkable instrument. Whatever it looks for, it finds. If we seek fault, we will find endless examples of it. If we seek beauty, we will discover it everywhere, even in places once overlooked. What we focus on expands, and so our mental habits determine not only how we interpret the world, but the kind of world we create for ourselves. The person who constantly searches for what's wrong finds their life filled with irritation, while the one who looks for what's right finds reasons to move forward with hope. Success, in its truest form, begins as this habit of attention, the steady, conscious effort to direct our gaze toward possibility rather than limitation. When you look for what's right, you begin to develop the attitude of a creator rather than a critic. The critic tears down, the creator builds. The critic sees the cracks in the wall, while the creator sees the potential for a masterpiece. Both may be right in their observations, but only one contributes to growth. This outlook does not require naivety, it requires intelligence. It recognizes that improvement can only come through appreciation first. You cannot build upon what you despise, you can only improve what you understand and value. People who live by this principle radiate a quiet power. They bring harmony into conflict, order into confusion, and purpose into despair. Because they look for what's right, they see opportunity where others see defeat. They encourage others instead of condemning them, and in doing so, they attract cooperation rather than resistance. Such people seldom find themselves without options, for their eyes are always open to the next step, the next idea, the next opening in the wall that once seemed unbreakable. Life responds to us in the same tone we use toward it. When we look for what's wrong, life shows us more of it. When we look for what's right, life begins to reveal its blessings. This is not magic, but a law of mind and spirit. To look for what's right is to train ourselves in hope, to build faith into the structure of our thinking. And once that faith takes root, success, not merely in achievement but in peace of mind, becomes the natural, inevitable result. A winning attitude transforms failure into feedback, not defeat. Failure, in truth, is never the end, it is merely information, a message delivered by life to point us toward a wiser path. The person with a losing attitude views failure as proof of inadequacy, while the one with a winning attitude sees it as evidence of progress. Every mistake, every misstep, every disappointment carries with it something valuable. A clue, a lesson, an adjustment to be made. To the person who has learned this truth, failure loses its power to discourage. It becomes part of the journey, not the conclusion of it. When we examine the lives of those who have achieved greatness, we find a pattern that repeats without exception. Each of them encountered failure, often many times. What separated them from the rest was not the absence of error, but the presence of resilience. They refused to be defined by the result of a single attempt. Instead, they examined their failures like a craftsman studying his work, asking quietly, "What can I learn from this?" And in that single question lies the seed of advancement. The person who treats failure as feedback grows faster than the one who fears it. Fear of failure paralyzes effort. It keeps the dreamer from daring and the thinker from trying. But when we view failure as feedback, we liberate ourselves from that fear. We begin to move with confidence, knowing that every experience, even the unsuccessful ones, contributes to our understanding. We learn what does not work, which is often the most valuable knowledge of all. The one who keeps moving forward, adjusting and improving, cannot remain defeated for long. A winning attitude does not deny the sting of disappointment, it simply refuses to dwell on it. It accepts failure as a natural companion to growth. It understands that progress is rarely a straight line but a series of corrections, each one guided by the insights gained from what went wrong. In this light, failure becomes a teacher more effective than success, for it reveals our weaknesses and sharpens our strengths. The individual who meets failure with curiosity rather than despair transforms the experience entirely. They no longer see loss but direction, no longer see the end but the next beginning. Such a mind cannot be broken because it has learned to reinterpret the meaning of defeat. Every failure becomes another step, every setback a form of guidance, and every ending a signpost pointing toward the next chapter of growth. Our environment reflects the attitude we project into it. The world around us is, in many ways, a mirror, quietly reflecting back the tone of our own thoughts, the quality of our expectations, and the nature of our inner state. The person who walks through life with bitterness will always find reasons to feel wronged. The one who carries gratitude in their heart will always find reasons to give thanks. We are not passive observers of life, we are active participants shaping it with every thought we hold and every emotion we express. A man who expects hostility often meets it. Another, walking the same street, is met with kindness. The difference lies not in the world itself, but in the energy they bring into it. Attitude colors perception, and perception determines experience. When we radiate confidence, warmth, and sincerity, people respond in kind. When we project fear, doubt, and resentment, the world seems to harden before us. Life has an uncanny way of giving us more of what we dwell upon. The mind and environment exist in a constant dance. What we give out returns multiplied. This principle is as practical as it is profound. A person who enters their work each day with enthusiasm soon finds cooperation and opportunity waiting for them. Another, who approaches with indifference or complaint, sees only obstacles. The difference is not in the job, but in the spirit of the one performing it. When we lift our attitude, we lift our environment. It is the unseen force that arranges visible circumstances, the quiet architect of harmony or confusion. The great truth is that we attract what we are prepared to receive. If our minds are filled with doubt, we repel success. If they are filled with belief, we invite it. The world meets us at the level of our expectation. This is why the most important work we can do is the inner work of adjusting our attitude. The moment we change our inner world, the outer world begins to shift in subtle yet unmistakable ways. To live with this awareness is to reclaim our creative power. We no longer drift, blaming fate or fortune, but recognize that life itself responds to our mental and emotional posture. Our environment is not fixed, it is fluid, molded daily by the impressions we cast upon it. When we project faith, kindness, and purpose into the world, we begin to inhabit a world that reflects those very qualities back to us. The greatest victory is mastery over one's own mind and mood. It is the quiet triumph that few ever achieve, yet it determines all others. The person who learns to control their thoughts, to direct their emotions instead of being directed by them, holds the key to peace, purpose, and power. Most people move through life reacting to circumstances, to words, to moods, never realizing that their true freedom lies in their ability to choose their response. The one who masters himself is no longer a victim of chance, he becomes the architect of his destiny. The mind is a magnificent servant but a dangerous master. Left undisciplined, it runs wild with fears, doubts, and distractions, creating confusion where there could be clarity. Yet when trained and guided, it becomes a tool of immense precision. The great thinkers, the innovators, the leaders of every age, all have shared one common quality: self-mastery. They learn to think calmly amid chaos, to decide with reason instead of emotion, and to persist when others faltered. They discovered that the outer victories of life are merely reflections of the inner victories won in silence. Mood, too, is a subtle power. It colors every perception and action. A single thought can lift the spirit or darken the day. The wise understand this and guard their inner climate as carefully as a farmer guards his field. They choose their thoughts with care, knowing that what they permit to dwell in the mind soon takes root in behavior. To master one's mood is not to suppress emotion, but to guide it. It is to rise above the storm of impulsive reaction and act from deliberate intention. This mastery is not achieved overnight. It is cultivated through awareness and discipline. It begins when one pauses before reacting, when one observes the mind instead of obeying it. Each time we choose calm over chaos, faith over fear, patience over anger, we strengthen the muscle of self-command. And as this mastery deepens, life begins to cooperate in remarkable ways. Circumstances no longer hold power over us, for we have learned to rule from within. The greatest victory, the one that outlasts all others, is not over nations or wealth or acclaim, but over the restless, untamed forces of our own mind, quietly conquered through the steady practice of self-control. Success, happiness, and fulfillment are not accidents of fate, but the direct results of the attitude we cultivate within ourselves. Every great achievement begins in the mind, in the quiet decision to think, to believe, to act from faith rather than fear. The person who learns to command their attitude masters the greatest force in existence, for attitude shapes thought, thought shapes action, and action shapes destiny. We have seen that a winning attitude does not deny difficulty, it transforms it. It sees in every problem a lesson, in every setback a signal, and in every challenge an opportunity to grow. Gratitude, optimism, and resilience are not luxuries reserved for the fortunate, they are choices available to every man and woman willing to claim them. When we look for what's right instead of what's wrong, when we treat failure as feedback, when we remember that our environment reflects our inner state, we step into partnership with the laws of life itself. No one can do this work for us. We alone decide whether to think positively or negatively, to respond with courage or complaint, to lift our vision or lower it. The world mirrors the face we show it. The individual who greets each day with a spirit of purpose soon discovers that life becomes cooperative, almost friendly. Things begin to work in their favor, not because fate has changed, but because their inner world has. The truth is timeless, our attitude determines our altitude. It is the lens through which we see the world and the compass that guides us through it. To develop a winning attitude is to take command of life's greatest power, the power of thought, and direct it toward progress, peace, and prosperity. So begin now. Stand tall, think clearly, and act boldly. Decide this moment to look for what's good, to expect the best, and to rise again each time you fall. Let your attitude be the quiet force that lifts you above discouragement and draws you toward the life you were meant to live. For in mastering your attitude, you have already taken the first and most important step toward mastering life itself.